Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be diving into AI again. Well, I guess we always are in a way, but today is going to be particularly interesting, I think. We're going to be looking at Gemma 2,
Okay.
a new AI model. And get this, someone got it running on a Raspberry Pi.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, really. I know you love keeping up with all this cutting-edge stuff, so
Absolutely.
I figured you'd appreciate this deep dive.
Yeah.
And the source for all this is a fascinating Medium article by Thomas Kevin. He's a PhD student, I think, in Brazil, and it's clear he's really into making AI accessible.
That's great. Yeah. Running a model like Gemma 2 on a device as small as a Raspberry Pi is, well, that's pretty groundbreaking. It shows just how far AI has come.
I know. So before we get to the Raspberry Pi part,
Right.
let's talk about what Gemma 2 actually is, because it sounds pretty complex.
Sure. Yeah. So Gemma 2 is basically a framework for training machine learning models. But what makes it special is how efficient and flexible it is. It's designed to work even when you don't have a lot of computing power, which is key for making AI more accessible.
So it's like a super efficient AI engine. That's very cool.
Yeah, exactly. And it's got some really neat tricks up its sleeve to make it that way.
Oh, like what?
Well, for instance, it can distribute the learning process across multiple devices,
Oh, interesting.
kind of like teamwork for AI, right?
Mhm.
It also compresses models, making them smaller and faster. Oh, and it's built for edge deployment,
Edge deployment.
meaning it can run directly on devices instead of relying on the cloud.
So it's all about making AI work smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
I'm impressed already, and we haven't even gotten to the Raspberry Pi part yet. But before we do, I'm curious about the brains behind Gemma 2. How does it actually work on a technical level?
Okay, so Gemma 2 uses this thing called a decoder-only transformer architecture.
Okay.
I know that sounds a little intimidating, but think of it like writing a story. You start with an idea and then use words to build it out, sentence by sentence.
I see.
Gemma 2 works in a similar way. It takes in information and then uses its architecture to generate text based on that information.
So it's like an AI storyteller.
Yeah, kind of.
But I've seen some other technical terms floating around like context length and rotary position embeddings. What do those mean?
Oh, good question. Context length basically refers to how much information the model can process at once. Imagine trying to understand a story, but you can only see a few words at a time.
Right.
It'd be pretty difficult to follow the plot, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, Gemma 2 has an impressive context length of 800,192 tokens, so it can see the bigger picture.
Wow, that's a lot of information. So it's like having a photographic memory for text. Then what about these rotary position embeddings? Those sound pretty technical.
They are a bit, but they're really important. They basically help Gemma 2 understand the order and the relationships between words in a sentence.
Hmm.
Think of it like a mental map that helps it keep track of where each word fits in.
So it's not just understanding the words, but also their place in the sentence. Kind of like grammar for AI.
Exactly. And there's even more. Gemma 2 builds on some of the things from Gemma 1, but takes them a step further. For example, it uses deeper networks, which allows it to process information in a more sophisticated way.
Deeper networks. Does that mean it's doing more complex calculations?
Exactly. It can make more nuanced connections and understand the subtleties of language better. But it's not just about brute force computation, it also uses some smart techniques to be efficient.
Like what?
Well, it uses something called local sliding window and global attention, which allows it to focus on specific parts of the text while also keeping the overall context in mind.
So it's kind of like how we read, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we focus on a single sentence. Sometimes we zoom out to understand the whole paragraph.
That's a great analogy. It's exactly like that. Gemma 2 can switch between that detailed focus and the broader context, which helps it understand how different parts of the text relate to each other. It also uses logit soft capping, and that helps keep its output stable.
Interesting. So it's like a safety net to make sure the AI doesn't go off the rails.
Exactly. It's all about reliability.
Okay. And I also saw something about RMS norm.
Ah, yes, RMS norm. That's all about stabilizing the training process. Basically, it helps Gemma 2 learn efficiently and consistently.
So it's like a personal trainer for the AI, keeping it in shape.
Yeah, you could say that. It's a small tweak that makes a big difference. And then there's this really cool thing called grouped query attention. It helps Gemma 2 process information even more efficiently.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How does that work?
Well, imagine you have this huge task to tackle. Instead of trying to do it all at once, You break it down into smaller, more manageable chunks.
Right, right.
That's essentially what grouped query attention does. It divides the information processing into these smaller parts, so Gemma 2 can work faster and smarter.
Ah, so it's like delegating tasks,
Yeah, exactly.
making sure everything runs smoothly. All this intricate architecture is impressive, but it wouldn't be much use without the right fuel, right?
Yeah.
How do they train Gemma 2 to do all these amazing things?
That's where pre-training comes in. They basically feed it a massive library of information to learn from.
So tons of data. What kind of data are we talking
We're
about?
talking trillions of tokens of data, everything from web documents and code to scientific articles.
Trillions. That's hard to even imagine. How does it even begin to make sense of all that?
It uses a tokenizer.
Yeah.
It breaks down the text into smaller pieces that it can understand, kind of like a language translator for AI.
So it's translating human language into something the AI can process. That's clever. But with so much data, isn't there a risk of the AI learning the wrong things? Like picking up bad habits?
That's a good point. And the developers thought of that too. They use these really sophisticated filtering techniques to reduce the risk of the model learning harmful or biased information.
That makes sense. We wouldn't want to unleash a biased AI on the world. Now, there's one more thing that caught my eye. Knowledge distillation. That sounds kind of mysterious.
It's a fascinating process. Think of it like an expert passing on their knowledge to an apprentice. Smaller versions of Gemma 2 are trained by learning from a larger, more powerful teacher model.
So it's like training a mini-me version of the AI, but with all the essential skills.
Precisely. It's a way to make more efficient models without sacrificing too much accuracy.
Pretty neat. So this pre-training is just the foundation, right? How do they take Gemma 2 from a promising student to a real-world AI powerhouse?
That's where post-training comes in. It's where they fine-tune the model for specific tasks and applications, like having a conversation, writing different kinds of creative text, or answering your questions in an informative way.
So it's like taking a talented artist and helping them specialize in a certain style.
Exactly. There are a few key steps involved. First, there's supervised fine-tuning. That's where they give the model real-world examples and feedback to refine its responses.
Yeah.
Then there's reinforcement learning from human feedback. So they use human feedback to further improve its ability to follow instructions and have conversations. And finally, they use model merging, which combines different models to create a more robust and well-rounded AI.
It sounds like a real team effort. Okay, so we've talked about all the technical details,
Right.
but let's get back to that elephant in the room. Or should I say the Raspberry Pi in the room.
Yeah.
How did they get Gemma 2, this powerful AI, running on such a tiny device?
It is remarkable, isn't it?
It's like fitting a supercomputer in your pocket.
Well, the PhD student we mentioned earlier, Thomas Gevin, he documented the whole process. He starts by gathering all the materials, installing the operating system on the Raspberry Pi.
That was pretty straightforward so far.
Well, it gets a little more involved after that. He uses this tool called Olama. It's specifically designed for running these large language models.
Ah, so Olama is the key.
You could say that. It's like a platform that makes it possible to run this complex AI on devices with limited resources.
I see.
And he even gives an example of Gemma 2 running on the Raspberry Pi. He asks it to explain transformer ML architecture, and it actually gives him a response right there on the tiny device.
No way. So with a bit of know-how and the right tools, anyone could have this AI running in their own home. That's wild.
It really shows how far AI has come and how accessible it's becoming. We're not talking about AI being limited to research labs and big tech companies anymore. This is AI for everyone.
This really feels like we're at the start of something huge, like a new era for personal AI.
I think so too. It's exciting.
It really is. What kind of possibilities do you see coming out of this?
Oh, so many. I mean, imagine a personalized AI tutor helping your kids with homework, or an AI-powered medical device that could diagnose illnesses offline.
Yeah, especially in places without good internet or without access to powerful computers.
Right. It could really level the playing field. And it's not even just about the technology itself. It's what people can do with it, you know?
It is. It's like the early days of PCs all over again.
Wow.
But with AI this time.
That's a great way to put it.
It's mind-blowing. So where do we go from here? What does this all mean for the average person, for anyone listening who's interested in what's next for AI?
Yeah. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
What would you do if you had Gemma 2 running on a Raspberry Pi at home?
That's a tough one.
Hmm.
I think I'd start with a personalized AI assistant. Something to help me with everyday tasks, you know? Maybe even learn my preferences over time.
That's a great idea.
But honestly, it's hard to even grasp all the potential, you know?
Yeah.
There's just so many possibilities.
I know what you mean. That's what makes it so exciting. We're all part of this AI journey, and the future is really up to us.
Well said. So there you have it, a deep dive into Gemma 2 and how someone got it running on a Raspberry Pi.
On a Raspberry Pi.
Pretty incredible stuff. If you want to learn more, I highly recommend checking out Thomas Gevin's Medium article.
Definitely. It's a fantastic read.
And as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts. What AI advancements are you most excited about? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, we want to hear from you.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking those big questions.
See you next time.